In tonight's cover story, WGN political reporter Taman Bradley goes beyond the headlines and onto the city streets.
This week, federal authorities announced sweeping conspiracy charges against members of a West Side gang allegedly responsible for 19 murders over the last 20 years. The allegations are just the latest example of police and political leaders turning up the heat on gangs, who they say are driving up shootings. But those actually on the streets say pointing the finger at gangs oversimplifies the city's extraordinary gun violence problem.
Gangs in the city are a huge problem.
With Chicago in the midst of a surge in gun violence, Mayor Lightfoot and the police department declared war on gangs.
We are going after gangs in this city.
This summer, Mayor Lightfoot introduced a plan to sue gangs for their assets.
To be very blunt and clear, we are going after their blood money.
Ernest Cato is CPD's chief of the Bureau of Counterterrorism.
We're going to do our best to give these children, these gang members, the help that they need. But we must be clear. If they don't want to accept that help and they refuse that help, we will be looking to discipline.
Cato says the department will expand use of community-oriented teams dedicated to helping rebuild neighborhoods. But his orders are clear. Take the fight to street organizations. To help, the department is building another gang database.
We're working to have a very strong process. It's going to be vetted. It's going to be fair. You're going to be notified. When you identify, we're going to come to your house.
So a new database then?
Well, a new system. A new system where we're going to be able to gather information.
Civil rights groups condemned CPD's original gang database as racially discriminatory, and the city's inspector general found the data riddled with errors. Northeastern University professor Lance Williams is an expert on gangs.
To say you're going to target them is kind of like really weird because those entities don't exist. What you have today are fragments of those groups that exist from block to block.
The notion of decimating the gang is hard to define.
Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox says her office attacks gang activity through its complex homicide and gang unit, financial crimes unit, and gun crime strategy team. But she's not embracing the city's increased focus on gangs.
Is it wise as a strategy to say we're going after gangs?
I think there's a pervasive fear of gangs. And because of the structures that we have been so accustomed to in this city, and whether you were talking about Al Capone's gang back in the 20s or 30s, or the GDs from the 80s, that there is a notion about Chicago and gangs, that when we see violence, there's a tendency to believe that that's what it is. I think we certainly need to make sure that we don't have these organizations that are hell-bent on creating violence and mayhem under control, but we also have to make sure that we're addressing why people join gangs, what happens to our social structure when we have kids as young as 9, 10, 11 feeling that there's more comfort and solidarity in a gang structure than they have in their communities.
Street pastor Donovan Price travels to dozens of shootings every weekend. He says the problem is not gangs, it's guns.
Both the good kids and the bad kids have guns. The good people and the bad people have guns because they feel safer with a gun than without a gun, knowing that the rest of the people have guns. The reason that you would shoot at somebody has gone down to the average stepping on a shoe, a statement on social media, whatever the case may be. We see the retaliation and then the retaliation for the retaliation, and that goes on. And now we say, oh, well, it's a gang war, when in actuality, it's a series of ill-natured moves.
Chico Tillman served 16 years in prison for conspiracy to distribute drugs. He too finds the Lightfoot administration's anti-gang focus head-scratching.
The problem is more nuanced than just getting rid of gangs. The entire philosophical view that gangs are pushing the violence is incorrect. I believe it's interpersonal conflicts between individuals who aren't equipped with the skills to be able to resolve it in a peaceful way. I think this happens from living in a state of perpetual trauma where shootings take place daily.
When released from prison, Tillman went back to school at age 40, earning a PhD. He believes he lost his way as a young man because he did not have a mentor.
A role model is anybody can be your role model. But mentorship is somebody who can walk you through a process.
And you didn't have that.
The challenge is I never had a male figure in my life for a long period of time, or had a connection with somebody that had a pathway of success outside of individuals who were athletes, entertainers, or involved in subculture activities.
Opposing gang member pulled the gun and clicked the trigger, and unfortunately for me, it didn't go off, or otherwise I'd have been dead.
Raymond Richard, who goes by Brother Raymond, spent 25 years in prison for selling dope, aggravated battery, and other offenses.
They never told me I'd go to jail. They never told me I'd be shot. They never told me I'd be addicted to drugs. They never told me I can wind up homeless.
Today, Brother Raymond and Chico work to keep young boys on the right path.
I joined the gang at 11. I didn't have a mentor. Had I had a mentor, I probably went to the penitentiary 6 times. I probably wouldn't have been left for dead 3 times, right?
I'm guessing, Chico, that the work that you do now is making sure that young men have somebody that they can look up to, a mentor.
Without a doubt. You know what a lot of people want? That's real simple. Access. Because they can touch, feel, call somebody that actually went a different route and made it.
Last week, City Council approved more than $1 billion in investments in affordable housing, violence prevention, and aid to business corridors. But Professor Williams says money alone won't end the bloodshed. Leaders must address the human element. Williams is advocating for outreach and brutally honest dialogue in Black and brown communities.
I see it, mainly as a cultural problem. It's got a lot to do with dominating women. It's got a lot to do with being able to effeminate other men who then have to oppose that. And because there's not a lot of room to use other resources to, exercise your power and your authority and control, when you have easy access to weapons, that's one way that you can, get your manhood and dignity. That's a toxic form of your masculine identity. I think we have to fix that problem among many young African American males.
Governor Pritzker has pledged to funnel $250 million to reduce shootings. That and the investments Chicago is making show that money to combat violence is flowing. But will the city tweak its game plan or continue to use a playbook from a different era? Tamon Bradley, WGN News.